Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Mark Nelson. I co-direct the Peace Innovation Lab here at Stanford with my colleague Margarita, who is standing in the back of the room. Okay, not where she was sitting a moment ago. I want to very quickly provide you, I hope, a new lens on what you are doing and hint at some new tools that are coming to help you do what you're doing. So very quickly, if you are interested in increasing peace in the world, if you're in the room for that reason today, another way to think about what you are doing is this emerging field of peace engineering. And I'm setting that up as a little bit of prelude for those of you who aren't interested or who aren't aware. All the deans of all the engineering schools in the world are getting together next week in New Mexico to have the first International Peace Engineering Conference, because they have recognized that peace engineering needs to be a thing, and they need to figure out how to teach people how to do this. So with that as an overview and foreshadowing, let me just say engineering normally proceeds in 4 stages. First of all, you have to be able to observe the phenomena you care about, and this is one reason we have been so grateful for the work of IEP and the Global Peace Index. Is it has begun to not only surface and make visible phenomena that people weren't aware of at the macro level, but it also begun to measure them, which is the second stage of any engineering discipline. You have to be able to measure that phenomena that you can now observe and distinguish from the background noise. If you can then measure the phenomena, that enables you to start instrumenting your environment to automatically extract relevant data from the environment, which then in turn allows you to start designing interventions that you can really validate your intervention is effective, okay? And right now, we're not at that stage yet, but we're getting so much closer. So I want to do a quick overview here before my timer goes off to contextualize our work. If you think about what the Global Peace Index has done, and Steve and his team at the Institute for Economics and Peace, if you think of them by analogy as studying the macro phenomena, the data that were available at the time they started in 2007, UN data, international government data, national government data, and so forth, these were all sort of the macro phenomena of peace. And so by analogy, if we think physics here for a moment, IEP are the astrophysicists of peace. And we started a year later, with encouragement from Steve, 2008, looking at what are the micro phenomena? What are the tiniest things? Because we were given a great gift by technology, which leapt forward to the 3rd stage of instrumenting, and that was these things. We have more than 2.5 billion people this year with one of these in their pocket. And these things can measure passively, in the background, human behavior, and specifically human social behavior. And so we get this real-time flow of micro-behavioral data that was never possible before. What that means is we need a data standard to make sense of this. And so a large part of our work over the last few years has been developing what is now officially, was announced in March of this year, the Hague Peace Data Standard, which is going to be, they have the idea that it should be the same as the Hague Convention, basically. This enables any organization that is using technology in their daily operations to take the data that right now is a byproduct of those daily operations and turn it into systematic, structured peace data that enables comparative analysis that has never been possible before. So we think that's incredibly exciting. Many other people think it's incredibly boring. It's the equivalent of inventing the ruler or the inch or something. But that enabled, when you look back historically, in the 1700s, when we standardized what an inch was, or what a centimeter was, or what a kilogram was, those enabled huge advances over the next 2 centuries in the production and distribution of wealth around the world. If you look at the historical lines for most of human history, we averaged about $400 per year in today's dollars of income per person. And it was only after we standardized those measurements that suddenly we were able to do this in terms of global income around the world. So we think that building these kinds of tools for practitioners has the potential to really enable some interesting new developments for all of you in the field. So by contrast to the astrophysicists of IEP, of peace, you should think of us as the particle physicists in our lab. We're really concerned about what are the tiniest behaviors that make a difference, and how can we measure them, and how can we measure them in real time and aggregate that. So what that means is that because we were given this jump-ahead gift of instrumentation, we can now begin to systematically partner with organizations all around the world who have this kind of data, for whom the data, by the way, is a liability unless they can turn it into value. And that means we have this unique bit of a chance to look at some preliminary results, and I'll just wrap up with these. The Institute for Economics and Peace, since their founding, did a lovely job of debunking the horrible myth that one of the reasons we have war is that war is good for business. And Steve and his team really thoroughly showed that war is bad for business, unless you're Halliburton or Blackwater. But otherwise, war is bad for business. Okay. So that was a huge improvement. And we can now see in the beginning of the data that we can extract that we can go a couple steps further. It's not only that peace is good for business. Preliminary results show that business is good for peace. Business is really good for peace. And I'll give you one little clue why. Business is the only domain where we have found where two people who are different from each other, by doing some mutually beneficial interaction because of their difference, can create and redistribute new wealth. It's the only way our species has ever found to do that. I'll wrap up with that. Thank you very much for your interest.